Hello. Hi. At Intel, they make technology to change your video chat background.
What's wrong with my background?
Everything.
Upgrade to a PC with Intel RealSense.
See, this one, this is my favorite. This is Bernie.
Bernie.
Yeah, and he often sits next to Clovis, and they kind of get angry at
Clovis?
each other. Yeah.
Wow.
And Samantha, there's one more, if you just want to show you. This is Marcus, and he's got the woven hat, which I picked that up in the Philippines. This is sort of a long distance.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, and his legs sort of move if you... Anyway, it's, you know, sometimes it's being temperamental. Right?
No, I think it's very fun.
Yeah,
I mean, if that's
squeaky shy.
the right word for that.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Oh! Well, this is actually very funny. This one is Clementine. I got her, you'll never believe this, in an old roadhouse in Tennessee.
Is that right?
Yeah, by the men's room.
Did you
saw her sitting there.
Oh, my goodness.
Blowing her horn. Very special. She's so funny. Yeah, I actually named her because the first time that my parents took me to the circus, the main clown there under the tent was Doris.
Ready? All right. So, we're halfway through Computex. It's day 3. How are you feeling?
Cheers.
Seriously.
That's how I'm feeling about Computex.
Man, it is hot and it is big. And it has been a pretty intense show for us. Oh, the guys are doing an amazing job on the show floor.
Yeah. They're constantly rocking it. And they've been all over the place today again. And yeah.
Yeah. So I thought that we would start off with something a little bit different. Let's kick off with some of our thoughts on automotive. Because you had, on day 1, you had that great glass.
That's true. Well, actually, I originally tested it during the Auto Shanghai. It's called Augmented Vision. It's from Mini, which belongs to BMW. And they've developed a smart glass together with Qualcomm. After the Qualcomm press conference, I was able to see, or we were able to see the prototype of it, the platform that it's based on. It's based on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 805. A very, very interesting concept in terms of where smart glass can really exist, how they really work out, especially how vertical this market is for wearables. Because this is a very special purpose, and you're using smart glass for a limited time period while you're driving your car. Just to give you an idea how that works. So think about, well, first of all, by the way, the mini smart glass, the augmented vision, looks much better than the original prototype. It's a little bit more advanced. Imagine that you're wearing these glasses and you're looking at a poster for an event, for maybe a concert or a soccer match or whatever. And the smart glass are going to scan the information, and will immediately know if there are still tickets available. So if there's tickets available, you can buy them. It will then navigate you to your car. As soon as you're getting into the car, it connects to the car system and switches on 2 different modes now. First of all, the navigation is now all about car navigation. As soon as you're looking through the windshield, you get a very, very simplified UI. It was magnificent. Yeah, it was one of the best navigation, no, actually was the best UI that I saw in terms of navigation. And so it will basically navigate you to this event then. As soon as you're looking to the left, no, that's the left, that's the right, you will be able to look through the doors, because the sensors are tracking you and realizing the angle of your head, and then they're switching over to the cameras on the outer mirrors on the side. It's an amazing effect, and the way they did this is, yeah, it's very impressive. So we saw those smart glasses.
Yeah. And why don't we watch the video?
We should do that.
This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus.
It is Sasha from Mobile Geeks. This is Computex 2015. Just came out of the Qualcomm press conference, and this is the so-called ODG R7. It might look a little bit familiar with you because this is basically the platform or the prototype that the Mini Augmented Vision is based on, which was the glass that Mini and BMW announced during the Auto Shanghai about 5 weeks ago. So this is a kind of smart glass with stereoscopic displays here, stereoscopic lenses, and I could test it during the Auto Shanghai, and trust me, this was pretty much the coolest experience I've had besides the Microsoft HoloLens, because this is a true AR glass, right? And the use case that the Mini designers together with Qualcomm made up in terms of navigation and this very, very simple UI that they're using for it was absolutely perfect. It shows you how good a smart glass could work in a vertical market if you're using a glass for a limited time period and for a very specific purpose, which is, with this one, driving. I'm not so sure about this prototype, especially I think it is a little bit overpowered with the Snapdragon 805 right now, because the version that I've tested at the Auto Shanghai had actually got quite hot over here, because this is where the SoC is. Just to give you an idea what it can do. So just imagine you're going to wear these glasses and you're just going to walk by a poster of an event or for an event, maybe a concert here in Taipei, and it will immediately tell you if there are some tickets available. Then it will help you to navigate to your car, and then in your car it actually switches the mode into a navigation mode, and it will navigate you to the event. But what's even cooler is, as soon as you're turning your head to the left and to the right, it basically switches over to the cameras that are attached to the mirrors on the side, and it gives you a kind of see-through the car, and that's pretty cool when you just want to park and when you just want to look around the corner. So this is the original prototype of the Mini Augmented Vision, the ODG R7. Really, really cool device. I absolutely liked what I saw during Auto Shanghai. It just tells you a little bit about how huge and how wide this portfolio of Qualcomm is, and with how many partner companies they're working on future projects. This is the ODG R7, prototype platform of the Mini Augmented Vision. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment. I'm still Sasha from Mobile Geeks.
So you know, the reason why I wanted to kick off with that was right before Computex, I actually got to visit the Lenovo Design Center.
Yeah.
And I got to interview the lead designer, and I thought it was fascinating the way that he kind of drew parallels about designing laptops and smartphones and, you know, all-in-one PCs and cars, right? You know, that Lenovo kind of wanted to bring up this design element and design language from the car, where they're sound testing things, how the car doors, you know, sounds when it opens and closes, how the car sounds when you're driving it, to like how the keyboard, you know, sounds when, you know, you're typing on it. So I kind of thought it was really interesting, and to kind of get that behind-the-scenes look at the PC industry and kind of how there's this, you know, convergence of automotive and traditional PC technology, I thought was quite interesting. So why don't we listen to him and his very inspirational words. This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus. The building behind me may not look like much, but this is Lenovo's Design Center. So this is where all the magic happens. This Design Center creates 200 products a year for a consumer. So that's mice, bags, tablets, smartphones, all-in-ones. And now we're gonna get a sneak peek at where they're drawing their inspiration from.
Designers from automotive industries have an entirely different, I don't want to say entirely different, but have a very different design mindset and approach. For them, it's really about how light reflects on, on the structure or the size of the car. And that's the most important part. One learning from the car designers, the car industry, was design is not just about the light reflection and the form and the shape and the curves and the crease lines. They have designers and they test the sound of how a car door closes. For us, it's the same. Do you want to have a keyboard that sounds like very plasticky and cheap? So we also spend so much time the thin keyboards again. The best keyboards out there for a reason. Because so much time is being spent on identifying the best possible user experience. And yeah, that from automotive industry, there's a lot you can learn, right? How does this texture look in this light, for example, or this color versus being outdoors? Rainy day versus sunny day, right? Rainy day maybe it looks gray. So there's again, color, the coating on this, again, Daniel is more the expert than I am. All of these little nuances and details are part of the design. So yeah, it's very broad field.
One other unexpected response was when I asked where you draw inspiration from, the response was disconnecting, right? To remove technology from your surroundings and to remember how it can be useful to you as a person and not how you're going to enable your technology. So that really funny cartoon about how you're thinking your smartphone's really helping you, but you're really a slave to your smartphone. So it was kind of cool to kind of return back to the human element of how we view our gadgets. So that was just a little bit of a taste of some of the stuff that I got to see in Lenovo's Design Center. Super privileged for going in. Not a lot of companies will allow you that kind of access. One of the things that Lenovo keeps driving home is that they own the stack. In their design center, they have injection molding, they have tooling machines that when they create something, they prototype it, execute it, and see if it works. Now, there's not a lot of companies who control the fab as well as the design center. So having that complete control and execution is one of the reasons why Lenovo is actually able to be so playful and to do bold colors for different types of geographies. Now, one of the reasons why a lot of companies can't do so many colors is that they have to put in orders to their manufacturers. And well, they have to put those orders in advance. And it's a huge risk to do a lot of a red or an orange laptop. What if it doesn't sell? But since Lenovo actually owns the fabs, they can decide that, well, that's selling really well. Quick, guys, let's make some more. And though they have to, do scheduling stuff, they're still able to pull off that kind of move, and there's not a lot of companies that can actually do that. So that was just a quick trip to Lenovo's Design Center in Beijing. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, why don't you go ahead and do that? And if you like this video, you should give us a big old thumbs up. I'm your host, Nicole Scott, for Mobile Geeks. Now, this wasn't the only crazy thing that I saw while I was in Beijing, and I'm going to force you guys to watch one more, just because this is something that you expected to see at Computex.
Yeah.
Right? The Magic View, the smartwatch with the
extra display.
With the extra display, which was actually the display from a glasses.
Okay.
Right? So they actually mounted a glass display onto the wrist, and then you lifted it up, and you could move in 360 and look at the inside of venues or the little movies, which was ridiculous because your arm got tired. Right? And actually, to be honest with you, this kind of crazy concept of how we're going to be interacting with our technology and gadgets in a new way is something I actually expected to see here.
Yeah.
So let's check out this video, because this is one of those crazy moments where you're like, Computex. But it wasn't Computex. Nicole Scott here from Mobile Geeks. I'm here at Lenovo Tech World, and I'm checking out a brand new prototype device called the Magic View. This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus. So the device itself is just a prototype. It's got a touch screen, a very simple interface where you can have Street View. It has GPS. It also has a second display. So this display is actually a wide VGA display, which was previously used in a wearable glass technology. So this is actually a repurposing of something that we've seen before on a different type of wearable tech. Now this has been in the works with Lenovo for quite some time. The device itself is actually fairly thick, and it has a button on the right-hand side. And I actually found a silver version that was charging. So right on the back of the display is where you have the charging port. Alright, so let's take a look at the interface of the smartwatch. So we just have a clock here, we just tap on it, and then we can access the menu. So let's choose Snapsy, and then this is a photo of a party. So 2 fingers down, sends the image right there, and then you can see what it was like at the party. So if I pull this back up, I can just go back, and then we're going to hit onto Street View. So here we've got the bird's nest. I'm going to pull down, and then it's going to send the image right to my wrist. So I can see it. Can you guys see it? I put ZenPhone 2 up to the little display to give you guys an idea of what it looks like. Now, why don't we take a look at the Forbidden Palace? Totally love visiting this place every time I come to Beijing. So, 2 fingers down, sending the little video to my wrist, and let's take a look at this. Oh. All right, and I can just turn around in 360 degrees. Look down and look up. Privacy 100% protected. Now here's another one, Pearl of the Orient. Send this down to my wrist. And then you can see there, we're just spinning around looking at the skyline of Shanghai. And when we're done, we just pull up again, and then we can just head right back here. Now, of course, here is sports news. There you go, so there's all the different games that we can look at. So I pull this up, I just pull down, sends the news to my wrist. I just hold it up to my eye, and then I can just scroll along and look at the different pictures from the game. Totally natural, but a really interesting concept. What do you guys think? So this was just a quick look at Lenovo's Magic View. Now this is a prototype device. It's not being released to the public. They want developers to get, you know, their head around the concept of developing for a dual screen wearable. So Nicole Scott here for Mobile Geeks at Lenovo Tech World here in Beijing. If you want to see more of this kind of cool stuff, why don't you subscribe to our channel? I'm your host, Nicole Scott for Mobile Geeks. Nicole Scott here for Mobile Geeks. I'm at Lenovo Tech World here in Beijing, and I'm going to be showing you a brand new concept wearable reference design from Lenovo. It's a shoe, it's got some lights, but it's a lot more than that. This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus. So what we have here is the sole of a shoe. This is where the, I guess, smart component would go in. And then this is an example of how you would charge it. This is a wireless charging pad. And here we have the completed product. So you can use an app to figure out if the kind of shoe that you have is the right kind of shoe for your activity, what your health and fitness level is. And of course, through big data and the creation of community, you can actually make friends, maybe even date somebody. Now, one of the other concepts that we have about the shoe is the idea that it has GPS. So, of course, Runtastic and all of these other apps allow you to track your movements as you go around, but this can actually maybe vibrate and put up a pattern when you get close to somebody that you've been talking to on a social network, or maybe you want to allow your parent to track your child or your wife to track your husband or something like this. So this is just a kind of proof of concept design from Lenovo. I'm Nicole Scott here at Lenovo Tech World in Beijing for Mobile Geeks. Then why don't you start with, actually Roland found something on the show floor, a two display laptop.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's a 2-display tablet.
What? Okay.
You know, each and every year during Computex here, we also see some platforms that are a little bit, I would say, different, unique.
Gems, diamonds in the rough.
We've already had, back in the days, we've had netbooks with 2 displays. Roland found a platform which is a tablet with 2 displays. So, I mean, what does it mean, a tablet with 2 displays?
Yeah.
I mean, just get goddamn 2 tablets.
Yeah.
And there you have your 2 displays. It also comes with a docking station. And you know what? It costs $3,500. So I think we should check this out.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks right here at Computex 2015. And as you can see, we have a very special device right here because this is the ASIL WinWings IS1, which is a dual screen laptop with a hinge right here in the middle. So it's not vertically, or not, yeah, it's got a vertical hinge in this case, and you have fans in the middle, and you can use all these 2 displays all on its own. So it's not really a laptop, but the screens dock into this docking station, which is basically just a keyboard, a bunch of weights, the trackpad, and a bunch of ports, and that is pretty much it. Under the hood in these displays is a Intel Core i7 4510 quad-core SoC that is supposed to be pretty powerful. It's one of the highest-end SoCs that's offered, or was offered, in the Intel Haswell family. They're switching to Intel Skylake later this year to keep it updated. It runs at up to 2 GHz and it switches and goes up to, I think, 3.4 GHz on the Turbo Boost in this case. There is up to 16 gigabytes of RAM in this and up to 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. The screens are 15.6-inch screens and they are TN panels, but they're pretty good TN panels, so the viewing angles are pretty much alright. You will be using this not for graphics because the resolution is only at 1366 by 768. They might go higher up in the resolution in the future with a more capable graphics part. Right now they're stuck at this 1366 by 768, and what they want to do with it is basically they want to offer a professional device that is mainly geared at people who want to, for example, edit audio stuff. So these support 10-finger multi-touch, so you can basically use a bunch of sliders at once for regulating audio in this case. It's running the Windows Insider Preview build 174, which has been released a couple of weeks ago. And there's still a bunch of bugs concerning the drivers, but as you can see, you have these 2 taskbars on here. So it's definitely powering both displays in this case. The docking station is removable, so if you want to, you can just take this off and walk away with it. And you can fold this down to transport the whole thing. In the docking station, there is only a keyboard and the trackpad right here. The whole weight of only the tablets is 10.53 pounds. That's just under 5 kilograms. And if you want, you can just fold these 2 together to carry them around if you want to. And let's just take a quick look at the ports here on the side, because these are the only ports on the left of this device. You have 2 speakers right here, so if you folded it out, you have stereo sound from both sides. And you'll have the power button right here. It's in sleep mode right now, that's why the power button is lit up. The Windows button is right here, so the Windows logos on the front aren't really capacitive. There's a micro HDMI out right here, plus 2 USB 3.0 ports, your headset jack right there, and a FireWire out, which is to show that this is geared towards audio people in this case. And we have the power plug right there. Let me put the tablet itself to the side for a second so we can take a look at the docking station. To transport it, you can just fold this down. On the bottom of the tablet, there's also these 3 connectors right here. These are just for holding the device in place when it's docked. In the middle is the data port for the connection to the tablet itself. The keyboard is pretty nicely spaced. It even has a numpad on it over here on the side. This is still a prototype, so there's a bunch of problems with it that make the keyboard flex, for example. There's 4 different colors, so you don't have to go with this rosé red version. There's a huge trackpad down here that also feels pretty nice, and yeah, it has a definitely pretty good click to it, although those mouse buttons are not separated on here. For transportation, this folds down, and on the back you get an Ethernet connector, it's actually 3 USB 2.0 ports, and that's pretty much it. I don't think there's a battery in the base. I haven't asked them yet, and I don't think there is. Those 10.5 pounds are without the keyboard, I think, because the tablet itself feels as though it's that heavy on its own. Let me just try and put this back together. It's kind of hard to handle as this thing is just massive right here. And just try and find the right spot to actually make it fit. And let's turn it back on. So you can take another look at that Windows 10 build running on here. So this has just been a quick look at the WinWings YS7 from the Chinese company called Asil here at Computex 2015. I was rolling with Mobile Geeks checking out this pretty crazy device over here, and I'll see you later. Hey, I'm rolling right here at Computex 2015 with Mobile Geeks, and we're taking a look at the first notebook or gaming notebook that has the eye tracking integrated that Intel-backed company Tobii is developing, and they're finally going to release a gaming notebook that has this bar down here which contains the eye tracking module that is going to make your gaming kind of more intuitive and also is going to help you on Windows. And we'll just get a quick demo of it here at Computex now.
So let me show you the first step. What we can do with eye tracking here is basically that we start with logging into Windows. So to log in to Windows I have to do 3 things actually, and it's like looking at the astronaut, looking at the basketball on the right side, and look at the telephone. So then Windows actually can log in automatically. However, there's one thing you have to do with an eye tracker, and that's the very first time you use it or you install it, you have to calibrate it for yourself. And that's what I'm going to do now, so I just follow the instructions on the screen and look at the dot. During the calibration you can easily just move your head and you can blink if you want to. There's no need to feel stressed or do anything different than you usually would do when looking at the screen. So that was pretty much it already. So let me show you a little bit about how to use eye tracking in games, and here we have an example of showing you Assassin's Creed Rogue from Ubisoft. And what Ubisoft did is they implemented eye tracking in a way to control actually the camera. So we call it the infinited screen, and what you can do is if you look for instance on the left side of the screen, the camera will move. If you look on the right side of the screen, the camera will move. If you look up and down, the camera will move accordingly as well. So what you can do, or what happens basically, is that you become one with the game. So eye tracking can actually make a connection between the game and the actual game in front of it. However, as soon as I start running, I can actually as well navigate the direction where my character is running to. So it's not only about the control now, I can also actually use it to navigate the character. So there's no need actually to use the mouse. You can still use the mouse, and as soon as you use the mouse, the eye tracking will be disabled. So it's always the hands which actually do the final decision, but you can use your eyes to go into the game, control it, etc. If I look away from the screen for about 2 seconds, the eye tracker will actually recognize that I'm not in front of the screen anymore, and the game will actually pause. So now you can see the game is paused. As soon as I go back in front of the computer again, the game will continue. Another functionality actually Ubisoft has added to Assassin's Creed Rogue is that you have an aiming function. So if you have, for instance, wearing a pistol, you can use it to aim towards your enemies. Unfortunately, we have to play until level 3, so right now I cannot show it. Anyway, so the good thing about Assassin's Creed Rogue, for instance, is also it is available for everyone on the internet, and there's nothing you actually have to do. You only need an eye tracker and Assassin's Creed Rogue, so you are welcome to try it out yourself as well at home.
Alright, so that was just a quick look at the Tobii iX eye tracking finally integrated into a product that is coming to market, which is the GT72 in a special model here from MSI. I was rolling with Mobile Geeks at Computex 2015, and if you like what we do on our channel, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and we'll see you later.
Hi, this is Daniel from Geeks here at Computex 2015, and we have here the Liquid X2 smartphone from Acer. It has been presented in New York some months ago, but we couldn't test it out, and finally we can have our hands on here. So this is a 13 megapixel camera on top here. The same camera is also on the back. It has a mono LED flash. We have it over here as well. And it's a nice 5.5-inch device. It has a nice IPS screen with beautiful viewing angles, very nice colors I must say, but it's not very crisp. It's just 1280 by 800 pixels. So you can definitely see pixels, but then it's nicely laminated, it doesn't have too much glare, and it's quite bright as well. So this device is running the Qualcomm Snapdragon 615 CPU, which also offers LTE, and 8 cores, 64-bit. We don't have information about the RAM, but this is running Android 5.1 pretty smoothly. Just look at this is super smooth. So let's have a quick tour. We have nothing on the left side. We have the power button and the volume rocker over here. There's a speaker on the bottom, also a microphone and a micro USB port, and there's a 3.5mm jack and a second microphone on the top. So this backside is made out of glass, and you can also remove it. Let's see if we can do it right here. It also says DTS HD Premium Sound, so it has some nice speakers as well. So let's try to remove this backside. Nope, it's not possible right now. Probably they just glued it on. So there is a huge 4000 milliamp hour battery inside there, which probably should take you through 2 to 3 days, because the display is not that high resolution, so probably more than enough for 2 days. So let's try out this selfie camera. So let's focus on my camera and then focus on me. And as you can see, the background defocus is pretty nice because this is a f1.8 lens. So if we focus on the camera, you see the background is nicely blurred. And if we zoom in here, this is pretty nice quality for a selfie camera, I must say. Pretty nice selfie phone. Yeah, I took some more photos as well. So yeah, pretty nice device. There is no information on pricing nor availability, but I think it should come out soon for a price of about $250 US, maybe $299, not more, definitely not more. Pretty nice device here at Computex 2015. This is Acer Liquid X2. I'm Daniel from Geeks. Thanks for watching.
The meshing of music, fashion, biology, science, technology. For me, it's a very modern way of working. I like the way the lines are blurred when you work with projects like this. I mean, is it art? Is it fashion? Is it science? Does it have to be in a gallery? I don't think so.
So we're designing and constructing a garment for Heart People's single for Rachel to wear in a film clip that gets shot in the desert north of Adelaide. I'm responsible for integrating and working with the Intel Edison chip to create a garment that expresses the breath of a musician through light.
The Intel chip hooks into the Wi-Fi, so when Rachel performs, she can control the lights.
You know, when we were working the song Blue Star, we talked about it feeling like another otherworldly place, like maybe some other planet. So I think the suit, the idea, like a very, very intensely man-made element combining, fusing with just the most natural element of the breath. That was really interesting.
When I first got my hands on an Edison chip, I was surprised at how small it was.
The Intel Edison chip it's a postage stamp sized chip with built-in wireless, so you can take it with you wherever you go. It's designed for inventors, entrepreneurs, and potentially for consumers.
Blue Star. What fascinated me about this kind of wearable tech stuff is that something completely man-made could at once be supernatural and so natural. It had both of those elements, but at the same time, technically speaking, it was this man-made, device.
The size of the chip is just getting smaller and smaller and more powerful and more accessible. So I think, that's great to enhance creativity wherever you might be.
True creativity, I guess, is pushing yourself and pushing your art form and being able to output your ideas. And often, like when you're being truly creative, you've never seen them before. And I think technology is becoming more and more what facilitates that growth. When we can't do something that hasn't done before, we look to technology to figure out how it can happen next.
Being able to work with technology is being able to see its possibilities, and it might not be what it says on the box. More and more we're able to do it as technology will continue to grow, and it's important that we play with it. As a template for art, science and technology, the collaboration will always be there and blur more and muddy more, and who knows what will happen in 2 years' time from now.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks right here at Computex 2015, and this is kind of an interesting device here at the Microsoft keynote. It's supposed to run Windows 10, but they didn't really say anything about what it actually is and what it does, but it's called the Quanta CompuPlug. Quanta is the well-known Taiwanese ODM that is actually making a lot of devices that you are using at home. For example, tons of HP and Dell notebooks are coming from that company, and as you can see, this looks almost just like a standard power brick. So it's got those two pins on the front. You can actually plug this into a power outlet. It's got a few vents on the top, and it's pretty much sized like one of those old Nokia power bricks that you might know from back in the days. But what's special about it is it has these actual outlets in there. So you have a full-size HDMI port right there and two USB 3 ports. So my guess would be this will be based on the Intel Atom Z3735F quad-core SoC, and will be running probably one of those super tiny compute stick mainboards, my guess would be. So that's all you need to run a PC nowadays. So this is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and that's just been Roland with Mobile Geeks here at Computex 2015. If you like what we do on our channel, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and we'll see you later.
This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks right here at Microsoft keynote at Computex 2015, and what we have right here is a new satellite 2-in-1 device from Toshiba, actually, and it seems to be a 13.3-inch device that has a 4K screen in this case. Let's just take a quick look at the screen resolution, and we're talking about a 4K screen right here. Again, this whole thing is fully touch enabled. It has a Skylake SoC under the hood that's running at 2.3 gigahertz in this case. I'm guessing it's a dual-core chip, and let's just take a quick tour around. We have up here the RealSense 3D camera from our lovely guys from Intel. We have a huge trackpad that's the same style as usual on the Toshiba devices, and let's just go over to the right. We're here, have a power button right there, the power indicator, a SD card slot right there, USB slot. It's going to be on the booth, dude. We have a volume rocker right there and a search button, interestingly. That's probably for Cortana over there. That we have the power plug, full-size HDMI port, another USB port, and this is a USB Type-C connector on here. The whole thing also folds down into tent and tablet modes, so you can just use it as usual. So here you go. That's the new Windows 10 based 2-in-1 device from
For Mobile Geeks.com here at Computex 2015, and we are at the Asus booth, and this is the brand new E1Z Android projector. This is a very small device which can project images from your Android smartphone or tablet. So if we have a look over here, what kind of connectors do we have? Of course, power on and off switch. This is the micro USB port, an output 5 volt 1 amp. I will talk about it in a second. And then we have a DC in for the power. So what you do is you get this micro USB to micro USB cable, and then you can plug it in into your projector, and the other side is the tablet or a smartphone with Android. And as you can see here, it just works fine. And it will project an up to 100-inch huge image on the wall. If I turn off my projector so you can see something, here it is on the left side. and that's the tablet. So if I swipe through the tablet, you can see this is a pretty nice quality. The resolution is 800 by 480 pixels, so it's not very high resolution, it's not HD, but this is definitely fine for watching a short movie with some friends. Yeah, looks pretty nice. So if we have a look at this little device once again, we can see here we have some vents on the left and on the right, and this is a focus ring, and this is pretty nice, so you can the lens is always protected. So on the back, I've shown it to you already. This is an output for your smartphone. So what's built inside here is a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, which will last you 3 hours of video playback. But also, if you don't need it, you can just plug in your smartphone over here into this standard USB port and charge your smartphone with this device. So this is a 2-in-1 solution, and it will be about $199 to $249 US when it comes out later this year. So yeah, this is the E1Z projector for Android devices here at Computex 2050. Thanks for watching.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks right here at Computex 2015, and yeah, this is something pretty special after we've heard a bunch of rumors, and Intel has also been saying it themselves. I think there's at least been this roadmap going around that said they were going to put the Quanta Core M into stick PCs or HDMI stick PCs. So this is one of those examples, because this is a so-called Quanta NH6. This thing runs the Intel Core 5Y10. I think it's the Y10A, which runs at 800 megahertz and goes up to 2 gigahertz. So it's a pretty powerful chip, actually, that usually goes into ultrabooks like the Lenovo Yoga 3, for example, or Yoga 3 Pro in this case. And it's got a dual-core SoC in there. The big advantage of these devices is that they will be able to address more than 4 gigabytes of RAM, probably going up to 8, maybe even more, depending on the chip that you put in here. It's still passively cool. I can tell you that under this hood, on one of the sides, is a massive heat spreader. I don't know if you can maybe see it through those grills. There's a heat spreader that goes all the way from one side of the device to the other. They probably had to make it a little bigger to dissipate those up to 6 watts of heat that the Core M produces. Other than that, we have probably an M2 SSD under the hood that will be much faster than your eMMC-based solutions that have been used on Bay Trail-based devices. And let's just take a quick tour around. We have the HDMI port for sure. On the side, we have a bunch of vents. It's basically all vents, this device. And over here, we have a micro SD card slot that you can just use to extend the storage that's integrated right here. Nothing on the other side. On this side, we have the micro USB port. Right next to that, this white thing right here is actually a button that also lights up, so that's just the power button. And on the back, it's getting even more interesting, because we have a USB 3.0 port right there, and this is your USB Type-C. So you can definitely plug this in using those new cables coming out very, very soon. This will probably never make it to market in this form. This is just a prototype, but it is a reference design from Quanta, which is a huge contract manufacturer doing devices for HP, Dell, and pretty much everybody else on this planet. Mostly notebooks, but they've changed to smaller devices, just like this one. But there will be devices based on this reference design coming out later this year, maybe next year. We'll see. Let's see what Intel does there. This has just been a very quick look at the Quanta NH6 here at the Intel booth at Computex 2015. I was Roland with Mobile Geeks, checking out this device. And if you like what we do on our channel, give us a thumbs up, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and I will see you later.
Hi, this is Daniel from MobileGeeks.com here at Computex 2015, and we are having a look at the Mosby pen from UFRO. This pen is quite special because it can actually measure the colors in our real world and bring them to this connected tablet. It can be an Android tablet, but there is also an app for the iPad as well. So let's first have a quick tour around this pen. Here's the sensor, the color sensor, which measures the actual color. We'll try it out in a second. There are also some buttons here. This is a reset button. We have a button to choose the colors, so we can scroll through the colors we already scanned, as you can see here. And of course, we can choose the colors by just putting the pen on the colored surface. So right now this is blue, as you can see here. It's connected via Bluetooth, so the pen says, okay, that color is green, and here we have green. So now I can just draw in the color I just scanned, and I think this is pretty amazing. For children, for small children, but also for adult children, I think this is pretty cool. So you don't have to pick the color in the color picker, you just go to the surface you want to scan, for example, this mouse, and here we go. Here's black color. So this is the Mo Speed pen here from UFRO at Computex 2015. I'm Daniel from Mobile Geeks. Thanks for watching. Remember the last time your battery was dead? Well, I've got a solution for you. This is the biggest power bank in the world, probably. This weighs 17 kilos and has enough power to power up your notebook for 100 hours. So this is probably enough to power up your smartphone for 10,000ths of time. So this is a huge lithium polymer battery, and we have two standard size plugs over here. We also have two USB plugs with 2 amp output over there, and also some LEDs and an on and off button. And if I wanted to lift it up, this is pretty heavy. Oh, it's almost impossible. That's why the wheels on the bottom of this huge suitcase are actually quite useful. So this is probably the biggest power bank in the world here at Computex 2015. I'm Daniel from Mobile Geeks. Thanks for watching.
I mean, that's kind of the joy of Computex, is seeing these random Chinese companies come up with all of this really unique stuff, and to kind of go, you know what? Somebody's gonna want that. Definitely, somebody's gonna want that.
Yeah, I think this will be the only one that ever got made.
The only one. So, you know, with all of these Chinese gadgets on the show floor and all these Shenzhen manufacturers, I actually got to sit down with Julie Kempernelli from Intel. So she actually works in, I can't pronounce your last name.
You were kind of, I said it.
Didn't want to screw it up. Sometimes last names are long. Anyways, and she actually knows quite a lot about the Chinese ecosystem or the Asian ecosystem and what's happening with all of these budget manufacturers, all of these Shenzhen manufacturers, and what they're looking to create in kind of this low end, because Intel, with their Sophia lineup and their Rochuk partnership, is actually starting to play in this area. And the other thing that I kind of found interesting about this show is I gave Intel quite a hard time at IDF a few months ago when I said, you know what,
in Shenzhen,
right? When I said, well, you know, Rochuk isn't exactly a company known for its quality, and you guys are partnering with them, like, what's this going to mean for your future platforms? And then at the Qualcomm event, Qualcomm announced a partnership with Allwinner, right, which is the exact same thing, right? And so I actually went to myself, did Qualcomm just make a move to play catch up with Intel on mobile? Wait, what? So Julie actually talked about something that I didn't really know that much about. Yeah. So I found it really interesting because she talked about the white box smartphone makers. I mean, back in the day, we would talk about the white box tablet makers and how it was like maybe a quarter of the industry in terms of shipping volumes, and just by nature you can't really, at least, right? But just by nature you can't really follow like what's happening in this sector because it's all so hush-hush. But she actually had some really good insights into where Intel's coming in on the low end with their Sophia 3GR and these white box smartphone makers.
Yeah, we should check it out.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks, and we have the Asus ZenPad 7.0 right here. That is the new super low entry level tablet from Asus, but you definitely get a lot for your money because this thing will probably start retailing from around $100, maybe 130, and it will also be available in an LTE optional version in this case. As you can see, we are running Android 5.0.2 Lollipop combined with the Asus UI. Let's just check it out quickly. We have Android 5.0.2 right here, so it's definitely Lollipop. IPS screen, 1280 by 800 in this case, and under the hood are the new Intel X3 SoCs, so that is the C3200 and the C3220, because the LTE model has also an integrated modem on the chip itself, so that's the ominous Sophia SoCs from Intel. That's also the reason why they have the brightness and distance sensors on the front right here, so you can definitely use this for calls and yeah, just replace your smartphone with it. We have a VGA camera on the low-end model and a 2-megapixel camera on the front of the higher-end model. That's the LTE version probably.
a single speaker on the front. Up here is your headset jack right there. Under the hood we have 1 gig of RAM on the base model and 2 gigs of RAM on the LTE version. Again, 8 gigabytes of internal flash storage on the lower end one, and the LTE model has 16 gigs of flash storage. The power button is right here on the side, plus the volume marker right there. You can change these back covers and you can add different accessories. So there is a clip-on cover, flip cover style. For the 8-inch model, there's also a speaker cover. The micro SD card slot is under here, including the micro SIM card slot for your LTE SIM in this case. The whole thing is 8.7 millimeters thick and weighs in at just 272 grams, so it's definitely super light. My guess would be that the battery is around 3,000 milliamp hours. In this case, we'll see how long that one lasts. Other than that, that is pretty much it, and we will see how much Asus is going to charge for the ZenPad series, starting with the ZenPad 7.0 here at Computex 2015. I was Roland with Mobile Geeks, and if you like what we do on our channel, give us a thumbs up. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Google+, and we will see you later.
So when Waterworld announced their designs at IDF Shenzhen, there were definitely phone form factors. We also had Wearable joining us on stage, and they showed some phone form factors as well. We're pretty excited and bullish and believe that there will be a greater number of phone designs. I do believe that we showed at CS Asia a phone design from an OEM in China, and we certainly expect to see more. I think what you're going to see in that value and entry space is also a growth in not necessarily large brand name OEMs, and I think you'll see Atom X3 enabling more and more of those designs. You might call them, the emergence of the white box phone vendor, and so you'll definitely see those. Certainly we had a bunch of designs on tablets already, and so as many of those OEMs are refreshing their designs and moving off of maybe a Bay Trail CR or one of our other products or solutions and looking at integrated comms capability, and they're refreshing those designs. It's worth noting that it was important to us not to lose all of those designs that we had gained in 2014. So there's certainly an initial focus on making sure that all those customers are supported in terms of their transition from 2014 designs to 15 designs.
Can you talk a little bit more about these white box smartphone makers? Because usually it's so usually I only hear about the white box tablet makers.
I know,
yeah,
and it's definitely emerging. We have one of the assets Intel doesn't talk about very much is we have this great sales organization that sells to what is generically called the channel, and the generic channel sells to people that are going to buy something that's white label and put their own brand on it. So there's a whole variety of people that are talking about branding white label phones maybe that haven't before. From everything from, we've heard of banks that want to offer more secure mobile banking solutions to their customers, where they would buy a value priced phone, give that to a particular customer. It could in fact be that they only give that to them with Wi-Fi, and if the customer wants to add and activate on a SIM card. So we've heard examples of that. We've heard other examples of local OEMs that want to buy phones. Maybe they weren't in the phone market before, and this really enables them to do that. You'll see a variety of service providers that also really will look and supplement a small percentage of their lineup, but it could be somewhere less than 10% of their line, but they'll buy in these white box phone segment and start offering more and more smartphones. And you'll see feature phones. There's a bunch of brands on the feature phone side that are really unknown. Doesn't mean they're unpopular. And so they'll start buying from that particular channel and branding to easily start shifting their customers up from value phones into value smartphones.
It's interesting. I actually came across a couple of companies this show that sell these really cool feature phones.
Yeah.
And how much I was talking to them and they were explaining to me that this is a huge demand.
It's a huge market
and
too.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
Feature phones still? You forget.
You
Right?
do forget. No, I think the difference between the number of smartphones and feature phones that get sold is actually still quite high. So, you know, feature phones have tremendous utility in places where either somebody just chooses to not afford to pay for the capability of a smartphone, doesn't have access to a service plan that really would take advantage of data on their device. If you look at the number of capabilities that are enabled on simple SMS, it's really incredible. There's education services, language services, farming services, and so I think you're going to also just see the gap bridge between what the pricing come down on a value and entry smartphone and a feature phone, and you'll see that blending. And I think that'll revolutionize also service providers to start offering smart data plans that are on the lower end, even lower than maybe what we've seen so far. But you go to, you know, lots of places in Africa, you go to lots of places in lower tier cities in China, obviously in India, that is, you know, the feature phone still rules the day for sure. Well, we don't have, you know, as much visibility because of the way that the channel works,
Yeah.
but certainly when you listen to customers talk and you listen to service providers talk, it was definitely, you know, in emerging markets, but in some cases I've definitely heard from some of our ODM partners, you know, places that you don't consider to be an emerging market necessarily, like Indonesia, where, you know, you have some stronger brands in places like Indonesia that aren't necessarily global brands, but they are, you know, very strong. They tend to buy phones and even that phablet category from the channel, and they rebrand, and so they would fall into a category like that. You know, certainly, again, you'll see more vertical players too. They're coming up, especially in that phablet category. Education, especially, who buys a lot through the channel, and they'll either brand it based on an educational institution, and they'll have all kinds of opportunity to, say, custom services on these devices too. You know, again, my banking example, when you dig into those examples, I found examples in Western Europe, I found examples in the United States, I found examples in emerging markets where they might want to offer a very dedicated identity service from a government perspective, and the cost of the devices are coming down enough that, you know, for a full suite of services, or like a bank, to be able to say, you know, we're going to give you this for secure banking, and this is what you're going to use. You'll definitely see more demands on the channel for products like that, or local OEMs as well.
This Mobile Geeks video is powered by Asus.
Hey, I'm Roland with Mobile Geeks right here at Computex 2015, and what we have right here is basically the real first Windows 10 smartphone coming to market, because the other day we showed you the Madosma from Japan, which is first launching with Windows Phone 8.1 and then later on switching to Windows 10. It was advertised by Microsoft at their own developer show in Japan as running with Windows 10, but it's actually coming to market with Windows Phone 8.1. This right here is the Cherry Mobile Alpha Prime, and this is for real. It's been announced to be coming with Windows 10, and it is definitely running Windows 10 here on the show floor. It's a low-end device, it's super low price. My guess would be just under 100 euros, maybe 100 bucks, maybe even less. So it's kind of probably going to be around $79, for example. Cherry Mobile is from the Philippines, so you're not going to see this in the US, but it's an OEM device that might be launching through other Microsoft partners in other countries. Are definitely all around this device. Under the hood is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 210, so that's the new low-end SoC that's even below the Snapdragon 400 that's been used on many Windows phones. It's a quad-core SoC running at up to 4. It has integrated for the downstream. I'm just scrolling to 7. Just added Microsoft running build 175. Definitely pretty much up-to-date build. We're at build on April 29. On the Cherry Mobile Alpha Prime, you get 1 gig of RAM and 8 gigabytes of flash storage. There is a micro SD card slot under this cover back here that you can take off. I'm not going to take it off because it's all dongled up and the Microsoft alarm system is pretty tight. There is dual SIM card slots under here. I think there are full-size SIM card slots and a micro SD card slot, as I said, for storage extension. The battery in here can be exchanged, and it's a 1,500 milliamp hour battery in this case. We have a single speaker at the bottom, and the whole thing is made out of plastic. This up here is a 5 megapixel camera, including a single LED flash, and on the top you get the micro USB port plus your 3.5 millimeter headset jack. This is not a Type-C port, it's just a standard micro USB. On the side, this is the volume rocker, and the click point is actually very nice. It feels pretty high quality in this case. We have the power button underneath that, also working pretty well. Nothing on the bottom. This is the space where you can just tear off the cover right here. There you go. And you get some capacitive touch buttons on the front on this device, so these are not going to go away with Windows 10 Mobile. On the left, there is pretty much nothing. The whole thing weighs in at 130 grams, and my guess would be that the thickness is at around or just under or just over 10 millimeters. So this has been just a very, very quick first look at the very first Windows 10 smartphone here at Computex 2015.
So, white box smartphones. It's a weird name.
It's
I'm
a
getting
weird
that,
name,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's what it is. So just to give you a little idea, if you want to build, oh my God,
Oh, actually, we have some.
Yeah.
Like these guys, Wisdom.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Oh, this is my favorite.
There's nothing in here. There's nothing
Anal.
in here. Get me the tablet with the Mobile Geek sticker.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
This one.
That's a typical one.
Oh, there it is.
So, I mean, like this one with the Mobile Geek sticker. To buy a tablet like this in Shenzhen is like $40 US. Like you would get a quad core one with maybe a 720p display, and you know what? Nothing special, but once again, dead cheap. And you can just head over to Shenzhen. They will give you a catalog, and they're going to ask you, okay, so what kind of display do you need? What kind of SoC do you want? How much RAM? How much internal storage? Any features? What kind of version of Android on it? And what's your destination? What's your final shipping port? So we know where to send the container to. And from this talk until shipping, right, it takes some 30 days to do that. Taiwanese industry in general needs about 3 months. Then they're going to run the first prototype series, right? Because they have to set up the production line for it and all of this. Those guys in Shenzhen, they're a bit crazy, right? And then they're building this stuff so cheap. To give you more of an idea about how Taiwan is positioned, what Computex actually means, how this ecosystem looks like, we've talked to our friend Handel Kim. Have a little bit of an interview. Gives you more of a background story about Computex and Taiwan in general.
Hi, my name is Handel Kim. I'm Director Asia Pacific at Teradici Corporation, and we are a Vancouver, Canada-based cloud computing company. We are the inventors and custodians of the PCOIP protocol, which stands for Pervasive Computing over IP, or Personal Computing over IP, or whatever you feel like. And essentially, we pioneered the zero client space. And the zero client, as opposed to a thin client, is something that has absolutely no operating system on the terminal side or on the client side, but has tremendously awesome performance due to the fact that the PCOIP protocol is optimized for allowing any host to send pixel data to any client. And we also have software clients and mobile clients that we also offer to our customers. Well, I mean, Taiwan is the nerve center of hardware and increasingly systems and software. We have several customers who are very large OEMs, and they don't build in the United States or in Europe, obviously. They build here, and they leverage the supply chain on the ODM side because the people here and the manufacturers here can do it faster. And yeah, I mean, Computex kind of, I would say, I mean, I've been to a lot of CES and back at Comdex back in the day. Computex is really kind of moved into its own. I started coming to Computex in the mid-90s, late 90s, and at that time the supply chain was just starting to grow. Asus was not a brand yet. Honhai was still doing bare bones. All of these companies were just starting to emerge, and the model hadn't really taken hold yet. And yet people saw that there was a tremendous potential here. And I remember back in those days, if you talked about contract manufacturing, then you're talking about Selectron, you're talking about Celestica, you're talking about Flex, and these guys really don't matter anymore, right? I mean, they're either out of business or have been merged together and are way down, in terms of market cap and size and revenues. And so as a result, Computex in the late 90s, early 2000s, really came into its own when you still had the Compaq, you still had the Dell, you still had the HPs, and you also had other PC makers that were still fighting for dominance, and before the resurgence of Apple. And then when Compaq and HP merged, I mean, I remember Barry Lam from Quanta was saying, I think it was in 2003 or 2004, he said, look, our top line revenues doubled, but our profits halved. I need to get out of this business, right? There's an old story where the CEO of Canon now, I think the last name is Cho, right? He's like the grandson of the founder or whatever, and one of his early jobs was to go to New York and run Canon USA in the 70s. And they're based in New Jersey, and there was a person from the IRS, and they got audited because they thought it was extremely weird that Canon USA was making, like 100 million in revenues, but was reporting, basically pennies of profit. So, Cho, as the general manager, had to work with the auditor from the IRS. And after the audit, the IRS auditor said, well, it seems true that you didn't make a lot of money based on this money, based on the revenue. So let me give you a little piece of advice. Next time, take that $100 million and just stick it in a bank. You'll earn way more return than running a company, which is one of the reasons why Canon is obsessively focused about profits as opposed to many other Japanese companies. So when you think about it from that context, right, what Barry Lam was saying was tremendously true. You had 3 major vendors that turned into 2, and of course the ODMs get squeezed, right? But that also caused innovation, right? So that's almost like an extinction level event where all of a sudden there are only 2 big customers now, right, instead of 3. And it's true that all the OEMs play off the ODMs against one another, but it's a two-way street. I mean, the people here in Taiwan have gotten a lot more sophisticated and a lot more knowledgeable in the sense that, look, there are times where ODMs are basically dictating terms to OEMs, right? Or that OEMs are now offloading sort of this idea of like, well, what have you got to show us, right? It's less of the top-down sort of hierarchical thing where, hey, look, contract manufacturer, this is our idea, you go and just do it, right? And we're going to make sure that every single feature is ticked off, and we're going to spend a lot of resources on this, to the extent where more and more is being outsourced to the ODM, to the extent where really in a lot of cases you essentially have brands, and that's all they are. Products are completely designed, developed, tested by local vendors here. So I think, we have to divide the concept of startup and entrepreneurship into like hardware and software. And when I mean hardware, I mean like traditional hardware. So if you wanted to start a company that was going to make gyros, right? Or you start up a company that's going to make cover glass or whatever, or some kind of like interesting camera technology. In my opinion, that's real technology, right? What I define by real technology is you try and do it, and there's a real chance that technically it won't work, right? You lay out a chip, and you get the mask, and then it's like, oh crap, it doesn't perform. Like there's a risk of failure, right? You're trying to change the way pixels capture light, and it doesn't work. That for me is real technology, right? And so that kind of real technology, which is hard physical problems and mechanical and engineering problems, in Taiwan, it's a good place to start because one, you've got a lot of people who can do stuff like that. The technical ability is very high, And there are a lot of people who understand enough about technology, who have money, who can help you out, right? You know, but it's very different in Taiwan if you want to start up a company. And I know this from personal experience and from friends and family of mine who've also tried to start up companies that have come out of ITRI or various other organizations. And one is that the entrepreneur here in Taiwan has to put up their own money, right? It's not like you go out and get a term sheet for $10 million and you haven't put up anything, right? VCs in Taiwan are very like, look, if you have no skin in the game, then why the hell should we trust you, right? It's a very different sort of like mentality. Then you look at sort of like, you know, the entrepreneurs as, you know, celebrated by TechCrunch and, you know, and Pando and all of that, you know, that cult of the entrepreneur stuff. Yeah. And that doesn't really happen in Taiwan. I mean, there are people here who are trying to be entrepreneurs of that nature, but there's no funding infrastructure here that's in any way similar to what's going on in, you know, in California or New York or anywhere else, right? But the good news is that you don't need a lot of money to be the next Uber. You don't need a lot of money to be the next, you know, Instagram, right? All you need are some good developers. It's trivial now to get a license to publish an iOS app and an Android app, and boom, you've got access to hundreds and hundreds of millions, if not billions, of users, you know, through these app stores. So your ability to distribute or to have distribution right out of the gate and reach a large number of people, basically through the creation of like one product into two, you know, operating systems is tremendous. Never had the ability to reach so many customers in such a short period of time in such an efficient way ever, right? So if you're a software guy and you're building apps and you want to do the next Candy Crush or whatever, man, there's no reason why you should be taking venture, right? Not at all. I mean, if you can't afford to pay yourself for 3 months, you know, with some other, you know, developer and take a few months out of your life or do it on the side or validate with an MVP and then get it out, I mean, then you don't deserve to be an entrepreneur, right? So you don't really need venture for that. So the question is once you've got that MVP and let's say you start getting that traction, then where do you get your seed from? And you know what? Seed rounds are all micro now, right? So there's no real angel list here in Taiwan, right? You don't have that, but there's friends and family. And the good thing about Taiwan starting a software company is that costs are really low. I mean, when I was running a startup here, I felt ashamed at how little we were paying people, and yet we were paying above market, right? And you think about these horror stories in, you know, in California, where people are you know, essentially asking for $250,000 and like a huge chunk of equity, you know, right out of, you know, CS at Stanford or whatever, or Berkeley. And you kind of think to yourself like, wow, you know, I could hire literally, you know, 10 people for that. Now, is that a better thing? I don't know, you know, but it's you don't need money to be an app or software entrepreneur in Taiwan. There's a good group of people who do this and are very supportive of each other, right? Because we're not even second tier, you know, in this world. And one of the issues is that, you know, I've always maintained that in order for you to become a very, very large company very quickly, or not even very quickly, that you need to start in a market that has a good domestic market, or a market that's close to a lot of contiguous markets that you can serve very quickly, right? So for example, in Canada, you know, you have 30 million people, but you're right next door to America. If you're number one in Canada, you're not going to be worth that much, but you can come into the United States, and if you're number one in the United States, you're worth a lot of money. In Japan, it's a very large economy. If you're number one in Japan, you could be a billionaire. China, forget about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. India as well, right? Russia, Brazil, you know, the BRIC countries. There's a reason why Indonesia, all of these countries, if you can be number one in that one country, you'll be richer than, you know, than Mammon, right? I mean, but when you're in Taiwan, you know, an island of 23 million people, okay, you're number one in Taiwan, you know, who gives a crap, right? You might be able to retire and exit for, you know, a couple of $1 million or whatnot, which is fine. I mean, I'd love a couple of $1 million. But if you want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, you want to be the next sort of, you know, Jack Ma, I mean, you really need to think scale, and you need to think about addressable markets in the immediate past. And a lot of Taiwanese entrepreneurs in the app economy that I've seen, you know, their business plan calls for, oh, in year one we'll do, you know, Taipei and northern Taiwan. Then in 6 months we'll go to central Taiwan, and then in a year we'll go to Kaohsiung. And then maybe after that we'll go to Malaysia and Hong Kong. And you're thinking like, why? Why? Like, you've got China right there. It's a different ecosystem, it's a different market, it's scary and it's big, of course. But you speak the same language, right? And you're scared. Why are you scared? You shouldn't be scared, right? It's a way bigger market. Look at Kansufu, right? The noodle makers. You look at anyone who goes over there, you know, that's the huger market, right? So if you want to be the next, you know, Mark Zuckerberg, you want to be the next Bill Gates and the next Jack Ma, then you got to go to China if you're in Taiwan, really. I think people in Taiwan are very, very conservative. I don't want to use the word chicken shit, but I think they overemphasize the risk and the downside versus the reward, right? And everyone in Taiwan knows that, oh, that's the massive market, but it's so difficult, so hard. It's already so hard to do it here. Why compound your troubles to go and do it somewhere else? And I read a lot of like entrepreneur blogs and crap like that, and you know, a lot of it's pap, but one thing that someone said, I can't remember who it was as well, probably said it's Mark Andreessen or something, like, who cares, right? But someone said, or maybe, you know, who, I don't know, but he said, look, if you're in a pool and the pool is 9 feet deep and you can't feel the bottom, or the pool is 9 miles deep, then what's the difference, right? Yeah. So if it's already hard enough in Taiwan, it's going to be incrementally harder in China, maybe, but the rewards are outsized. So yeah, you may have increased your chance of success by 20–30%, but you constrained your upside to, you know, 1% of what you could be doing. If I could trade 20–30%, you know, more risk for like 10,000% more upside, I'd do that. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're spending your time doing something anyway, right? You're not paying yourself any money. You're getting yelled at by your family and friends, and no one will talk to you. You got to borrow money from people, and you can't do anything, and you're obsessed. You grow a scratchy beard and you go nuts. So if you're going to do that, why not go for the big prize? Why go for the safe prize? And that, I think, is endemic in a lot of younger Taiwanese people. And now I'm going to sound like the old guy, okay? But I think a lot of younger Taiwanese people, students especially, are unable to really take the risk, right? So you hear a lot of stuff about, you know, in Silicon Valley now, that, oh, you know, you're not an entrepreneur just because you graduated from Harvard and you starting a company doesn't make you an entrepreneur because you can't take a hit on the chin, right? And I think that's true, right? I mean, the real mark of an entrepreneur is failing multiple times in spectacular fashion and still getting up and trying to do it, right? There's an innate sort of like nobility in the struggle, even if it's like horribly financially punishing, okay? But, you know, people who get hit once in the face of adversity and then give up, like, all right, then go work at Goldman Sachs or something, right? Although I'm sure Goldman Sachs is very challenging, right? But, you know, in Taiwan, it's like you get, you know, a lot of young people who kind of live at home, who don't have the financial, you know, necessity of going out. And I'm not saying all, I'm vastly generalizing here because I'm being an old man now. But the fact of the matter is I think a lot of these younger people, you know, feel like, oh, that's just too much extra risk, right? And you don't think about the reward. And then the last dimension is being an entrepreneur now is kind of sexy, right? Yeah. I was watching this thing about chefs, celebrity chefs, and this one celebrity chef, I think it was Roy Choi, you know, the guy who did Kogi Truck, right? And he's like, oh, you know, the cult of the, or maybe it was David Chang, another Korean guy. And he's like, you know, the cult of the celebrity chef is just overblown. He's like, this is a blue-collar job, right? And it's glorified now. And everyone wants to be a chef. Everyone wants to, you know, and it's kind of like that with entrepreneurs, right? Now, all of a sudden, everyone's an entrepreneur just because you quit your job or you didn't have a job and you decide to incorporate, you know, in Delaware, and then you start developing a product. And then you have all these people who go to these conferences and they talk about like entrepreneurship and innovation agenda, and you got to go out and you know the people who talk and talk and talk and they don't know anything because they've never done anything. They only exist to suck at the teat of real entrepreneurs, who, by the way, don't usually go to stuff like that because you're too busy trying to ship product, you're too busy trying to get customers, you're too busy trying to make sure that person doesn't leave your company and screw everything up, right? You're out there trying to make sure that you have enough money to cover payroll. That's what an entrepreneur is. It's all, you know, it's like in the chef world, you stand there on your feet and you're yelling orders at people and you're chopping shit up in order to make sure that the stuff goes out, right? It's not about like whining and dining and judging like 10-year-old kids who are making like souffles out of, you know, like, I don't know, ostrich eggs, right? That's just like the stupid glamour part, right? I mean, it's really hard. And so I see a lot of parallels between the rise of the celebrity chef and the rise of the celebrity entrepreneur, right? And I think it's good in the sense that you have more entrepreneurs and more people trying to do things, right? I mean, it's really the same thing. I think there's the same percentage of success. If it's like 1% of entrepreneurs succeed, okay, great. And that proportion is constant. And then you add 10,000 times more entrepreneurs, and you're going to maybe it's a constant. I don't know. Maybe it's not, right? But we'll see. So you got to think intuitively, the more people are trying to do things and solve problems, the better we're going to get at solving these problems. But you know, sometimes if the problems are you're trying to find like a Christian dog walking thing, right? Then maybe we have too many people, you know, who are trying to do too many inconsequential things. Which takes me back to the Taiwan and the hardware side, right? Which is like, man, I mean, if you can shave off like a couple of watts on the power draw or something, that actually has tremendous like global benefit, right? If it's widely adopted. I mean, you could arrest or help, you know, slow down global warming because you're creating something that's more efficient in power. If you can do things that really solve problems on a physical and you know, material level, then these are all good things too, right? So it depends on the startup ecosystem, right? I mean, for these people, you want to create the next, you know, Uber for private jets, then screw you, right? Like, fine, you know, go do it yourself, right? But if you're trying to find something that's going to ridiculously change the way that humans interact with, you know, with the world, then that's awesome.
So that was Computex in Taiwan. And as you might know, we live here for over 6 years right now. And we're going to release a new format very, very soon. It's called Out of the Box. So we recorded this back in August last year. So I know it's a little bit older, but in terms of the quality, right, it's just not having any impact on this because we really took our time. We thought we need to bring technology and travel and merge it together with cars. This is why Audi Taiwan gave us a Q5 last year in the summer. We drove down the east coast of Taiwan. So it's absolutely gorgeous over here.
Yeah.
And we would love to introduce Taiwan to you, the place where we live. We would love to show you some technology. Yes, those handsets aren't the newest ones anymore, but you know what? You can get them for cheap right now because there's a new generation available right now. So. And we want to talk about cars. And we kind of created a little bit of a story. The whole episode is about over 50 minutes long.
It's almost an hour, actually.
It's almost an hour. We're going to release it next week.
Yep.
But what you guys will be able to see is an exclusive.
A little bit of a sneak preview of some parts of the show. So if you want to watch the rest of it, you're going to have to come back next week. You know, the thing about this show is it was really a labor of love, right? And like we almost just watched it ourselves and didn't want to show it to anybody.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals behind the where we kind of see the need for this show is that we travel so much, right, with this job, right? We both spend maybe at least 5 months a year jet setting to different countries to go look at new gadgets, and just in the meantime, we're relying on our gadgets to keep us connected or disconnected, right? And just to figure out how to get around, right? So really, to us, we weren't that time pressured to release it because honestly, the insight in it is timeless, right? The gadgets are still running Android or Windows Phone, and you'll be able to still take, you know, everything that you need from the concept of traveling with your tech.
Yeah. So basically, I guess we finally should take a look at it.
We should take a look at it.
Well, obviously this is not scripted here. So she's not looking at a teleprompter. It seems like you were lost a little bit.
Well, you know, I was a little romantic there.
Oh
like,
my God.
Tearing up at people seeing the show for the first time.
Oh,
a little bit nervous.
No, we're serious, and that's why we were also pitching it this way as a teaser for today's live stream. This is a project that is very close to us. We put a lot of time into this, a lot of money into this for such a small media outlet that we are, and we really love we really love the result of it. So what you're going to see is basically the work of many, many weeks and even some months. So enjoy. This is the first episode. This is the pilot episode. Or sneak preview.
A sneak preview.
A sneak preview.
A tiny chunk.
Of out of the box. And you know what? Please give us feedback on this. Let us know in the chat on the side how you like it, how you love the camera work, how you love the audio, how you love the story.
We can take it.
We can take it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Taipei City, the capital of Taiwan, is a bustling metropolis surrounded by some of the most beautiful natural attractions in the world. With about 7 million residents in the metro area, Taipei is convenient to find. With multi-story electronics markets, massive shopping malls, fantastic dining options, and a subway system regularly hailed as the best in the world, it's no surprise that once people get to Taipei, they tend to stay. Once the sun goes down, the city takes on a different kind of bustle. Nightlife in Taipei consists of some of the best dance clubs in Asia, letting people dance until the sun comes up. Now, while all that's well and good, what people have oftentimes failed to notice is the wealth of natural beauty just a few hours outside of the capital. Mountains, oceans, and hot springs are only a short ride away, and travel is generally very reasonably priced. Stu, Sasha, and I have done the research and are here to let you guys know exactly where to go, what to see, and the best tech to bring with you to make the most of your trip. So we're about to leave on our exciting East Coast adventure. We're just waiting for one possibly hungover redhead.
Yeah, I think Stu is a little bit late.
Yeah, just a little bit. So we're actually going to be starting off in Ilan, heading to the beach and maybe to the museum. And I know there's a sausage lady that might have a treat for us. Then there's Hualien and Chiroko Gorge. And then down the beautiful East Coast where I know you love the scooters. But I think the most exciting part for me is going to be the Hot Air Balloon Festival, where we get to watch the sunrise from 350 meters in the air.
We might gonna watch the sunrise, or let's say Nicole's gonna watch the sunrise. I might want to have a snooze.
Do I hear afraid of heights?
I just hate to be exposed underneath a hot air balloon.
All right, let's see if we can find Stu.
Let's do that. Not afraid of heights.
Right now we're in Songshan Airport in Taipei, the domestic terminal in Taiwan. If you're landing from an international flight, you're probably coming from Japan, South Korea, or mainland China. If you're landing from another international destination, you'd be arriving at Taoyuan Airport. That one's about 45 minutes to an hour from the city center. Songshan is conveniently located a 15-minute taxi ride away from the 101, or you can hop right on the subway. So if you can land at Songshan, you should totally do it.
Now, unless you're one of these crazy or brave people that only need to pack a bag and book a flight to anywhere, you probably want to do a little bit of a pre-trip planning. Skyscanner will mix and match airlines in a more aggressive way than other apps. But it'll find you the absolute cheapest combination of sites to do your booking. We'd recommend this app if you're really looking for the cheapest flights, especially in Asia. Travel is Microsoft's travel app contribution. It's not only a booking service for hotels and flights, you're getting trip ideas, the latest news, and of course you can also search for destinations. Obviously we're over here in Taipei. It sends you to a beautiful landing page. You're even getting the latest weather report from a summary, and you're getting pictures.
So it's a solid all-around app with easy navigation to check your trip details or read travel-related articles, and the destination page is fun to play around with even if you're not traveling. Kayak is not only a popular booking site, but it's also a popular booking app for flights, hotels, and car rentals. The hotel search comes with a compass and an app that even gives you directions to the place where you want to stay, which is of course handy if you're traveling without a plan.
Okay. So how was that?
I loved it.
Me too! I thought it was amazing!
I mean, and the thing is...
So now it's out, by the way.
It's out, yeah.
Jesus!
Wow, it's out.
Jesus, now some people know about this.
It's in the wild.
Seriously, the only ones that knew about this were some friends. We were showing it once in public at a friend's house in Berlin about 2 months ago over a projector.
And we've been showing it to some people that we were looking at working with on episode 2 with potential sponsorship.
Yeah.
Which is what actually ultimately ended up taking it so long to release, because episode 2 is coming up. If you guys don't hate this one.
Yeah.
Don't hate it.
Don't hate it. Don't hate it.
So now...
I'm gonna switch up the live stream. Don't hate it.
So now that you guys have a little bit of a taste of what Taiwan looks like and some of the gorgeous beaches, because like if you just see our live stream from Computex and what the halls look like, this just looks like a robot, you know, factory of lights and showgirls. But Taiwan actually has some really intense rugged beauty. So actually, the next place we're going to take you is one of our favorite places in Taipei City, right? And it's actually called Huashan, and it's right beside the computer market.
Yeah.
Right, so on the day 1 stream, you saw Sasha walking through the computer mall, right, the brand new one. And this is maybe a 10-minute walk from there, maybe a bit less. And so it's this culture park. It's called the 1914 Creative Park, or Huashan. And it's just gorgeous, and it's where they have the Maker Faire. So the Maker Faire happened 2 days before the start of Computex. So it kind of had this international crowd. A bunch of Japanese makers were there, and actually, I got to sit down with one of the girls from the Maker Bar or Maker Faire in Singapore. Because when I was in Singapore for the LG G4 launch, I stopped by one of the Maker events where they were kind of pitching who was going to show, who was going to have stands, and the way that the people in Singapore talked about the Maker Faire was actually quite different than any other place that I've kind of heard people talk about their Maker Fairs. So we're going to show you both of our trip to the one here in Taipei, and then a bit of an in-depth interview on what Maker looks like.
Do we have the exploding smartphone in there?
We have the exploding smartphone.
Guys, you just don't want to miss this. Smartphones are evil. Trust me. Trust me. And we're going to show you how you can get rid of this evil. Let's do this.
Oh, and then we're going to go to State of Smart. I can do this one.
Okay. Come back.
So I still can't believe that guy wanted to remove the evil from your life. I love my phone, but the idea that he has an exact way you can blow it up, that's pretty
And it's
amazing.
open source.
I actually really want to get that light stick where you can draw logos with the shutter speed. I mean, like there were legitimately some pretty cool things at the Maker Faire. Now, one of the things that tends to be a little bit different in Taipei and Shenzhen versus what I've seen in maybe the U.S. in general is that over here, sometimes they're a little bit business model first, right? Like they're making something, but they're like, but this is how we're going to sell it and make money. Whereas, you know, in San Mateo, they're like, here's my fire-breathing dragon.
Right.
Maybe you should donate some money so I can buy some more gas. You know, like the idea behind it's actually quite different. So we're gonna sit down now with one of my favorite journalists here in Taipei, Josh Horowitz. He's now at Quartz. He used to be at Tech in Asia, and he's gonna give us a rundown on the state of startup here in Taipei. So what it looks like for these makers that are looking to take their gadgets onto Kickstarter and get them funded.
Yeah.
And he's also going to talk a little bit about mobile messaging.
Yeah, and he was also talking to the stormtrooper.
Yeah, when he was here, you just saw him talking to the stormtrooper. I don't know why. He was just facing this way, talking. Okay, you're gonna love it. I mean, like I could have cut it out, but at the same time, it was just so
I thought it was
random.
kind of funny.
Yeah, it was totally random and funny. All right, so enjoy, Josh.
Let's do it.
Sure. Well, one thing that I think when you talk about mobile apps in Asia, which is a big topic, I think that one of the more salient themes is probably mobile messaging. And a lot of people, I think, in the States don't really realize how powerful the concept of mobile messaging really is and the potential for owning the messaging real estate. In the United States in particular, I think since most people have phone plans where text messaging is free, people don't really understand what makes apps like WhatsApp or apps like Line here in Taiwan or in Japan or apps like WeChat so exciting or so powerful. I think to a lot of Americans, SMS or text messages, it's bland, it's boring, it's simple. But when you consider that most people in other parts of the world, particularly in Europe and then also in Asia, for people in those parts of the world, text messaging costs money. And so apps like WhatsApp, apps like Line, apps like WeChat, making that free is actually really valuable. And when you consider how often we send text messages to each other, and when you consider how much time that we spend on our phones is taken up by mobile messaging, companies that take ownership of that real estate are in a very unique position to use that real estate for other purposes, for opportunities to make money, maybe through advertising or maybe through other services. And so that's why we see companies like Line in Japan, Taiwan, Thailand, companies or software apps like WeChat in China, when they own that real estate and then when they own the network of users, when they have everyone using those apps, then these companies, much like Facebook can monetize off of that big network, these companies and these apps can monetize off of those networks too. BBM, I think for a time was really kind of holding on strong in Indonesia because Indonesia was the one market where BlackBerry kind of was still kind of clinging on to. My understanding is that BlackBerry was still really cool in Indonesia, it was still a desirable consumer brand, and so BBM kind of benefited from that. But obviously, the tide is moving towards Android and iOS, and so BBM is kind of dying along with that trend. But I think it varies market by market. In China, the dominant messaging app, without question, is WeChat. And WeChat is kind of its own rabbit hole. It's kind of like its own portal. If you think about Yahoo in the 90s, or the way that a lot of people use Facebook now as their landing page, that's very much a position that WeChat occupies now in China. Here in Taiwan, it's without question Line. Line also has dominance in Thailand and Japan. And you and I see that every day where we go to the 7-Eleven and we see Line characters on the on the windows, and we see Line keychains for sale right next to the candy bars at the counters. And even today, I was out shopping, and I was just at a clothing store, and right next to the cash register, they said, "Follow us online," right? So it's powerful the same way that Facebook is powerful in the States, or globally too. But going market by market, I'd say it seems like these companies seldom release regional breakdowns, but it seems like Hong Kong WhatsApp is the definite messenger, with WeChat in a strong second. Singapore, it looks like WhatsApp is in the lead. Southeast Asia, or the developing parts of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, it seems like it's kind of up in the air. There's one local player that we've been told is doing really well. Korea, KakaoTalk definitely has dominance, the same way that Line has dominance here. Europe, it's definitely WhatsApp. I think they benefited by getting there early. So it's really hard to say decisively where these companies have market leadership, but typically, when you look at the numbers that are given, And when you just spend enough time on the subway and you look at which app is on everyone's phones, that's kind of the best way to tell. You know, just to answer the most basic part of your question, how are these companies monetizing? Line is monetizing primarily through game-related purchases and purchases of stickers, which are these sort of cute little graphics that you can use in conversations to make them more interesting. It's a sort of thing where I think a lot of North Americans look at these stickers and they think these are ridiculous, and then once you start using them and buying them, I'll shamelessly admit I buy stickers all the time. They're really addictive and they're fun. And they cost about $1 US per purchase. And Line is making a lot of money, a lot of revenue through selling those stickers and through game-related purchases. The gaming side, when Line will just sort of advertise its games or sort of keep its promotions for games very close to the screen real estate you see for messaging, and so that'll kind of suck people in. WeChat is monetizing similar, through not so much through stickers, but through a lot of game purchases. But what we'll be seeing for both of these companies is more monetization on sort of possibly e-commerce, right? So WeChat has been aggressively recruiting a lot of small and medium-sized brick-and-mortar stores, small and medium-sized websites, and then also big brands like, say, for example, Uniqlo, McDonald's, Starbucks, and they've been aggressively trying to get them to open up official accounts, which lead to opportunities for both marketing and also purchases of, say, an actual pair of jeans or an actual pair of coffee, or an actual cup of coffee. So I think that for both of these platforms, the immediate monetization opportunities are games and stickers, sort of virtual goods, then also marketing and promotion channels, much in the same way that Facebook monetizes, and then eventually it's going to be online to offline. Buying a cup of coffee, in-store payments, ordering a pair of jeans online, or for WeChat and then Line in Japan, both now let you book a cab, kind of like, it's sort of like there's a sort of local Uber that you can use. And again, the reason that they're able to do that is because they have these networks. Everyone who uses these apps devotes so much attention to them that they can have these monetization opportunities. WhatsApp has not done any of this. If anything, they've remained really dogmatic. The founders seem to have these principles where they don't like advertising, they don't like virtual goods. And then the founder sort of famously, reportedly, has the sticker that he keeps next to his desk where he wrote down, no games, no ads, no gimmicks. And they've made sort of half-hearted attempts to monetize through annual subscriptions, but they haven't really rolled that out aggressively. I think it's kind of been on a trial basis. So they really haven't monetized, period. And again, I think that the best explanation for that is because that was just a decision the company made. What differences do I see in VC funding for mobile app startups in Asia versus the West? There's definitely a lot less money going around in Asia than there is in Silicon Valley. That said, in almost every major city in Asia, you'll find at least a few VC firms that are committed to funding the internet startups that come out of their cities. And we're seeing more and more early stage funds in these cities. We're seeing more and more medium or later stage funds in these cities. A lot of them are investing both in the US or San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and also their hometowns. For example, there's a VC fund in Korea that has an accelerator component where they incubate local teams, and then they also take in a few foreign teams. And then likewise for the related VC fund, they kind of keep some hands in Korea and then some hands in Silicon Valley. So that's a model that a lot of these firms are taking, and I think it's a good one because it, on the one hand, it keeps them included in the deal flow that's going on in Silicon Valley, which is where you've got the best deal flow, the most activity. On the other hand, you can do your part to nurture, to take advantage of the local talent that's coming from the local pools, for example, which in Taiwan, for example, would be hardware, HTC, Asus. In a place like Korea, it would be Samsung, And also a lot of these, we're going to see more and more talent come from the local internet companies as well. I think particularly in Japan, Line itself, or Naver, its parent company, they just introduced a $40 million VC fund for startups. And so I think we're going to see these messaging apps like Line. I think that Tencent is going to have a VC firm that's kind of tied to WeChat, and that's looking for internet startups in other markets in Asia that can help Tencent or help WeChat in these markets.
So what types of apps are kind of like the higher quality ones that you feel are coming up in like an interesting way? Because there's a lot of stuff happening in Asia, but there's not a lot of mature business model ideas or concepts that I see kind of coming forward. That like when I talk to a lot of companies, I'm just like, oh, you guys are maybe 1 year off from kind of being ready to.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's still quite young out here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're looking at like the overall kind of ecosystem, there's companies that are more mature and less mature. Like, are there any trends that you can identify for like different types of apps that might be like more mature out of Asia, or like segments people should keep an eye on more so than others?
I really wouldn't say that there's a trend. I wouldn't say that, you know, Asia has an advantage for. I think people like to say, oh well, Tokyo. You know, people will like to make statements, for example, oh well, Taiwan has a great hardware legacy, so Taiwan's future is the Internet of Things and smart hardware. And that might be true, but you know, really companies evolve on sort of a granular level. There's personalities involved. There's you know, all sorts of murky elements that make companies successful. And so I don't think you can just say, well, you know, hardware background equals Internet of Things success. It's really common to see a lot of successful models originate in Silicon Valley, but then be replicated in Asia in ways that are more local and perhaps more suited to the local market. So if we talk about ride-hailing, for example, we're seeing, like, Uber is a great example of a really, really brilliant business concept that's done tremendously well in the United States. And then what we're seeing in Asia is the leading companies that are applying Uber's premise to their local market. It's being done in a localized way. So what does that mean? Well, in Southeast Asia, for example, there's a very successful ride-hailing company called Grab Taxi. And what they do is they reach out directly to taxis. So the bulk of their network is made from ordinary yellow taxis, whereas in Uber's case in the United States, the bulk of their network is made up of black cars, or more likely just ordinary people like you and me, peer-to-peer cars, you know, cars that are owned by ordinary people. And the reason why that might be why the Grab Taxi model, or starting from taxis, might make more sense for Southeast Asia, is because it allows for cash payments. The concept is a little more palatable for perhaps the average consumer. You know, instead of trying to convince an average consumer that it's worth their time to get into a Mercedes or their neighbor's cars, their neighbors might not even own cars, and there might not be enough car ownership to validate the peer-to-peer model there. But there's always a pool of abundant taxis in, say, Singapore or in, say, Jakarta. So that's an example of a model that's being done in the West, or that originated out in the US, but that is being applied, you know, in its own special local way. This would be in Southeast Asia. It's also what's being done in India. It's also what's being done in China.
Okay.
So, yeah, the Stormtrooper loved it.
He totally loved it. You can't wait for Josh to come back and whisper more words of startup love to him. So, speaking of all of this kind of idea of makers over here sometimes don't see the same VC, and it's a little bit more family and friends. Let's take a closer look at what it looks like in Shenzhen, because Shenzhen is actually a lot more hardcore when it comes to how they're going to be producing these Kickstarter campaigns.
Yeah.
So my favorite hackerspace is called Seed Studio. And it's because these guys actually, I know, well, I just keep on swinging away from you.
To the right side. Yeah.
To the left, to the right. It's a really swivelly chair. Or I've had too many beers.
It's see if I can make it 360 on it.
Here we go.
No!
360. No, it's got to come back around this way. So it's Seed Studio that we're going to be going to next. Because these guys, they work with a lot of makers, and then they have their own fab.
Okay.
Right? So they can actually create, up to 10,000 pieces in one day, but they're more about rapid prototyping. And then they have a partnership with Foxconn, that if you get over 10,000, you can go directly to Foxconn. So, I mean, Maker in Shenzhen is actually just kind of a little bit different, because it's where everyone from Europe and the US globally flies over to try to find the plant.
Let's check it out.
Yeah, let's check it out.
Hi, my name is Nicole Scott from Mobile Geeks. I'm here in Shenzhen at Seed Studios. This is one of the one of my favorite makerspaces that I've been itching to see for a long time. Now, this isn't your traditional makerspace because, well, it's got 3 floors and a fab. It's got 280 employees, and it actually enables incubators. So, like everything in Shenzhen, it's on the next level.
Eric Penn and his company Seed Studio are showing the future of hardware development. Hackers around the world are innovating on open prototyping platforms, raising funds through crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, and partnering with Chinese studios to create manufacturable designs in small batches using technology like 3D printing and open source hardware components.
We call Shenzhen is like Hollywood for makers. Yeah, I mean, it's quite open. It is the market for everyone. You can get what you want, and you can make your stuff. Just you take your ideas here, and you find the hack space, even here or some space else. You just put your things and try to hack it and make it. Seed Studio, we start from 2008. At that time, we joined the forums, and we see Arduino is quite, I mean, his idea is from Eric's experience. The time he visited Beijing, there is an exhibition. It's an art exhibition, interactive installation exhibitions. And he found it's very interesting. A lot of artists, designers try to using electronic stuff to their ideas, their projects. And he think that is kind of like an opportunity for him, because he just quit his job from Intel as the product manager. Yeah. And then he go to Shenzhen to look around. He found Huaqiangbei electronics market, and boom, it's amazing. That is the place he want to live. And he just find the place to live here and call his friend, just ship the things from Beijing to here. And then we start from a board called the Arduino. That is a different thing between a little bit like upgrade version. We collect some ideas from the community, in the Arduino community and the other forums. And we think, what kind of thing you want plus Arduino? And we collect a lot of ideas, and then we develop our board with a little bit different functionality. And on the board, like we add some button, we change some voltage to output something. And that is our first product. At that time, we developed a lot of things related to Arduino boards. Like we have a lot of different shoes, like which is very different functionality for Arduino. And we also have a groove system, which just plug and play very easily for artists or designer to use it. We call ourselves like maker for makers. We try to be a makers. Like me, I'm an artist, interactive installation artist, which I have 3 years in Hong Kong. I make a lot of interactive installations. And then I'm quite curious how this module be made. So I joined Seed Studio, and yeah, actually I was a maker, and now I really know what the makers want. We join some fairs, like exhibitions. We go to San Francisco for the first Make Fair we have, and it's a Make Fair Paris. We just very excited. At that time, we see a lot of makers making their things. We have some connection, we share our ideas, and we share the Shenzhen's, the center of the manufacturing in China. And then we find some requires from the community. They want to make some products to manufacturing in Shenzhen. So at that time, we developed a service for the makers.
What makes this hackerspace a little more different in my mind than other hackerspaces that I've come across is that it fills the gap for indie hardware makers through their community, open hardware component library, and small batch production capabilities.
We have our own small production line, which we call NGL Manufacturing Center. Like 100 square meter place, we have a production line, which help manufacturing like 100 pieces. And more than that, we can connection with the outsourced factory. Yes. So we focus on like from 1 to 10,000. If more than 10,000, we switch to the other big factory like Foxconn. Big factory, they don't care about the small benches. No, they just okay. How many you want to make? And maybe 100 or maybe 1,000. For the maker, it's a lot of the big. I mean, it's a lot. But for the factory, no, it's kind of piece of cake. No, and yeah, and so that is the problem. So we try to help the makers to make the prototypes. Yeah, and these two parts of things we see studio, what we are doing here is quite amazing to be here as a maker. In the past, it's very easy to get. In other cities, even in Shanghai or Beijing, you need some time to wait. They ship to you. If you try to Google manufacturing in Shenzhen, you can see a lot of red points on the map. In US or like even in Shanghai and Beijing, it's pretty far, the center to the factory. But in Shenzhen, even on the street, it's like a printer shop. That kind of two things is enough good for the makers to make the choice to try to live here for their products. Yeah. Compared to the Chinese maker and the US makers, the Chinese makers try to make something can be a business. I talk a lot of makers in the United States, but sometimes for the United States maker, like maybe just for fun. That is a little bit kind of different between the West or here or to the United States. Yeah, a lot of United States makers come to Shenzhen, and to here it's quite convenient, easy to make their ideas very efficiency.
I think the makers in Shenzhen, probably in China overall, is that they probably more concerned about what their business model is going to be like. It's more than just about making something cool, but also how are they going to grow as a team, and also how or even a more basic question, how are they going to pay for the bills so that the project become viable. So I think that's a really big distinction between two groups of makers.
There is a lot of place talking about the maker movement, but it's really hard to find a good community for the makers to show their stuff. Like we have the Maker Fair Shenzhen, which is the 7th featured maker fair in the world. I mean, in China they have something else, but here it's like a station for connecting the West and the East. We invite a lot of makers all over the world. They will come here to show their stuff, and they give them some talk, sharing their ideas, and even sharing some experience. So I think kind of activities is very good for the community, and it's very good for the maker to communicate, sharing the idea, or getting some comments for their stuff. These 3 points, I think there will be the top I want to share about Shenzhen. Is quite a place for the makers to make the choice live.
Why don't we stay in Shenzhen for a little bit longer?
I can stay in
because
Shenzhen
we did 2 very, very interesting videos that we would love to show you. The first is Nicole is showing you a little bit more about the smartphone ecosystem, how the shops look like, and how busy it is over there.
Yeah.
And the second is actually really funny. It is how they're gonna sell you fake premium batteries, and how they're gonna relabel them and rebrand them. And
taking off the old stickers.
That is such an investigative piece of journalism.
Oh, thank you.
So you should definitely check this out. Enjoy.
The Yuanwang Digital Mall is my favorite computer market in all of Shenzhen, and it's because it's where the majority of the bulk buying for China goes on. So if a phone's going to be sold in China, chances are it passed through the floors of this computer market. Now let's do an unedited walkthrough on the iPhone 6 as soon as I can switch it around to the front-facing camera. Now, over the years that I've been coming here, the computer market's gotten a lot nicer. The entrance is a little bit fancier. I apologize for the audio on this. I'm just recording it straight onto the iPhone. I mean, the cool thing about this versus the other years that I've been coming here is that I had to carry a big camera, which would get me a lot of looks. Now, when you come onto the first floor, you can kind of walk around down through here, which does have some interesting shops. But if we head on up the escalator, my favorite guy to buy smartphones from is just right at the top of the escalator. He's the one in the yellow booth here. I'm going to come say hello to him later, not really right now. He looks kind of busy selling something to somebody. But anyways, it's this guy right here. This guy. So anyways, most computer markets are kind of like this. They're just tons of small little alleyways with little booths, and you can see in the cases there, it's just stacked with phones, right? So when you're walking around, you can kind of get an idea of what's hot, right? So here are a bunch of Huawei Ascend Mate 7 boxes. Oh, I'm causing a traffic jam. Sorry about that, guys. And here's a bunch of HTC stuff. There's the M8, the Desire, there's an Xperia T2 in there. There's a lot of iPhones, Here's some Galaxy Note 4s and some iPhones. Now, over there, we're going to see some people picking up stickers and putting on batteries. Now, I've got an entire video about that. I'm going to keep moving because they really don't like it when you film stuff like that. But I have an entire video about that already. So I'll put a link in right now so you guys can kind of take a look. Now, like I was saying downstairs, in previous years, I've had to carry a big camera in order to get footage of in here. And I mean, you can do it, but they'll start to get mad, right? So here's a shop that's just for connectors and headphones. More connectors and headphones. And like you'll see as I hold the phone up, so this is it. This is the main kind of area where all the phones get sold. So you'll see just like closest to me right here, there's an entire stack of phones. And in his bag, I've got a bag full of phones. Yeah, I mean, yeah, here's a bunch of iPhone connectors, or sorry, headsets. Here's some more. Now, are they real or are they fake? It's always hard to know, right? You really kind of have to know your stuff if you're purchasing in here. I mean, and it's hot. You can see everyone's got these fans, right? And they're just cleaning off phones. Now, I'm gonna look around for somebody who's got a price sheet. Maybe a slightly different price sheet than that one, and a less scary man. So here's another stack of phones. Those are iPhone 6s. So she's going to pick all those up. Put all those iPhone 6s. And you can see the unopened, or the open. And we're going to come across some people making up the boxes. So you can see here, they've packaged up the boxes and set to free. So you can kind of buy them packaged like this. And these are these price sheets that I was talking about. They get updated daily, and they give you an idea of what each handset's being sold for. So here's the iPads, iPad Air. This is a pretty Apple exclusive shop. Some of the other ones, actually I think they've changed the overall format. So here's the S5, that's going for $2,600, the Note 4, $3,900. So they're all kind of handwritten day by day, fluctuating with the prices. So here's the Mi Note, the Air 2. Yeah, these price sheets are always really interesting. So the boxes of the S5. We'll keep on walking through. I don't want to linger too much. So there's actually some Galaxy Note 3s over there, which I find pretty interesting, and iPhone 5s. So these guys must be specializing in older phones. And check out their price list here. So right now, these are all in renminbi, and it's about 6 renminbi to $1 US. I'm not going to try to do the math because that might look embarrassing. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. So these guys are all doing, there's the lightning cables, the adapters, and these will all go into the boxes. You see all the boxes that are just whizzing by me. I haven't yet seen a pallet full of phones or tablets. In some other years, that's been something that's been pretty common for me to check out, but I'll keep on walking around just to give you guys an idea. I'm going to go into some of the smaller side alleys. And one thing you guys should keep an eye out for is there's smoking in here. There he is, smoking away. This definitely isn't your... See lightning connectors. Yeah, and then here's a bunch of batteries. Samsung batteries. Oh, apparently we're in the kind of battery area. See, here's the bulk buying for busy. Yeah, these are all lightning cables in here. These are all for distribution into China. Yeah. It gets when you get further back, it gets a lot more kind of, well, I wouldn't say scary, but it gets a little more intense. I know back here, another video that you can check out, here's some LG. Yeah, so LG's got some traction here. There's the LG G3, right? And this is the thing that I like about wandering around this market, is that it gives you a sense of what types of phones are being sold. I mean, primarily we're seeing mostly Xiaomi's, Samsung's, and of course iPhone is the big one. Yeah, Xiaomi batteries. Yeah, nice. Yeah, so I mean, Xiaomi's definitely gaining a lot of traction here in China. One thing that I did see the last time when I was walking through here is seeing more pallets of just stuff. What is in there? Meizu. Alright, so those are all Meizu phones. I kind of love Meizu. We're actually, see, and then this store just sells boxes. Right, so it's a store that only sells boxes. iPhone 5S, iPhone 6 on the other wall. So each shop can kind of make a living out of individual packaging for resale in. Now, because the iPhone is legal in China, it doesn't have the same kind of black market, salacious reputation that it used to. But headphones are also coming in as a pretty popular thing. I have no idea what's in there. So this is actually the main floor. Now there is another area that I don't know how to get to at this exact moment. It's not down those stairs, but it's the smartphone repair area. But I'm actually gonna maybe end this video here, because it's been 8 minutes. With a kind of long pan. So all of these guys that you see here.
Hi. Excuse me. Don't make a photo, please.
But it's so. Hi, Nicole Scott here from Mobile Geeks, and today I'm going to be sharing a story from my trip to Shenzhen and counterfeit batteries. China produces more counterfeit products than any other nation. Everything from bogus Coca-Cola to Louis Vuitton handbags, and of course, knockoff mobile phones and batteries. If you're wondering why this is, well, Chinese consumers can be a little obsessed with Western brands. So since many are unable to fork over for the real deal, they are the ones that are fueling the demand. If you're looking for knockoffs and counterfeit goods, there is no other place in the world more infamous than Shenzhen. I took a trip to Huaqiangbei, the main computer market street in Shenzhen. It's got dozens of multi-story computer markets, but there is one in particular that gets me really excited. It's Yuanwang Digital Plaza. According to their website, it's 30,000 square meters that, to be honest, kind of looks like a sketchy office building. This computer market is unlike any other that I've been to because it specializes in smartphones. And not only in the selling of smartphones, the bulk selling of smartphones to China.
So the thing that I found fascinating was when I was wandering the halls, I came across something completely mind-blowing. People were peeling off the old stickers on used batteries and replacing them with brand new stickers with the intention of selling these as brand new batteries. There are even stores where you can buy certification stickers. At this booth, they were also testing Samsung Galaxy S3 batteries, which were knockoffs. I couldn't tell, but they eventually told me that they were not original Samsung branded batteries. But what you'll be pleased to know is that they were doing some testing to make sure that they were holding a charge and in working order before they were sold. Here you see the testing process as well as one of the batteries getting rejected. In addition to batteries, there were also counterfeit chargers. What was confusing is that I was talking to a guy who was selling them, and he was telling me that because this room is the official point or the unofficial point of import of iPhones and a lot of legitimate products into China, a lot of the chargers that I was seeing in the room actually were legitimate, but a lot of them weren't. And I looked at him and I said, well, how do I know? And he just smiled and laughed at me. So why should you be worried about buying unofficial batteries? Well, the media has often gone crazy whenever a battery explodes, causes a fire. These are the most obvious and terrifying reasons why you shouldn't be picking up a counterfeit battery. But you do save a ton of money. Personally, I buy a lot of counterfeit batteries and nothing's ever gone wrong. But it is totally a buyer beware. The battery could be of such poor quality that the casing actually breaks apart if you accidentally drop your phone, and then will like spray battery acid inside your handset, right? So that could happen. But this is pretty rare, right? You don't really hear of like battery acid leaking out into phones very often. What you usually hear of is a charger will go on fire or a phone will explode. Now, what is happening and why you should be avoiding aftermarket chargers and why these products are dangerous is the danger is the charger may not terminate the battery correctly, and it will rely on the battery's internal protection circuits to cut off the charge, right? So when the battery becomes full, the battery will tell the charger, you know, stop sending me electricity, I'm full. Or the charger will detect the battery is full and say, you know, I'm going to stop sending electricity. So there's actually a double fail, right? So the charger should stop and the battery should stop. But if, say, you have a dodgy battery and a dodgy charger, that's when you're going to get an explosion. So I buy counterfeit batteries. I mean, they're like half the price because you'll see kind of quickly whether or not the battery is going to work out for you or not. Is it holding a full charge, right? Is the charge going down at like a normal speed and not like your phone has 70%, then it has 20%, right? That's usually what happens when you buy a counterfeit battery. Or what can happen sometimes is like with this whole sticker thing, you might have ordered a 3,000 milliampere battery, but inside they actually only have like a 2,000 milliampere battery. Right? They just put a sticker of a 3,000 and charged you more. There's really no way for you to protect yourself from stuff like
And today I'm here to ask the question, what happens to a mobile phone after you recycle it? Well, depending on how old it is, it could end up in a developing country, but sub $100 handsets are getting, well, pretty good. So the chances of somebody who earns less than $1 a day wanting something that's not 2G enabled, well, that's pretty slim. Now, these old gadgets that you're just not going to use, like a audio cassette player or maybe your compact disc player, what happens to things like these, or even just those old mobile phones? Well, I'm here in Shenzhen to answer that question and to take a look at some of the alternatives to your gadgets ending up in the dump.
So why Shenzhen? Well, it should come as no surprise that the West has been shipping their garbage east for years. But what is it about Shenzhen that's been attracting all this global e-waste? Since the mid-1980s, China has been home to a thriving business devoted to remaking and refurbishing used electronics. No one knows the scale or the revenue, but you can bet it's big. There isn't one town or village that doesn't have at least one used electronics market. And here in Shenzhen, there are entire city blocks devoted to reusing